everyone. This is Chris again from ABsmartly. In my previous video, I showed you how to set up group sequential experiment on the ABsmartly platform. Today, I want to show you another aspect of GST, which I really like, and it's how to evaluate them, how easy it is to evaluate GST experiment. What you can see here is an example of a completed GST experiment. So like with any other experiment, you have all the data and metadata you need to make decisions. So you have the primary metric, secondary metric, guardrail metric, but you also have this graph here on the right, which is specific to GST. So if I zoom in, so this graph basically represents the experiment over time. Each one of the vertical line is one of the interim analyses. And I show you that in my first video, how to set up those interim analyses in ABsmartly. What you have at the right here is a maximum runtime. So in this case, this experiment will complete when it has collected 393,000 visitors. The dotted line that you have here is the equivalent decision time for the equivalent fixed horizon experiment. So as you can see, every one of the interim analyses is an opportunity to make an early decision. In a worst case scenario, if the experiment doesn't cross either of the boundaries at one of the interim analyses, then it will slightly run over what it would have if it was set up as a fixed horizon. In this case, it's only 4 days. In this graph, you have 3 different lines. So you have the green line here, which is the efficacy boundary. You have the gray line, which is the futility boundary. And then you have the yellow line, which represents the test, basically. And the GST experiment is ready to be evaluated when and only when the test line crosses either of the boundaries, right? So either the green one or the gray one. What's important to keep in mind is that the GST implementation in ABsmartly only tests you for superiority. So this test can only tell you if your experiment, so if your change is significantly better or not. It cannot tell you that your change is worse. So that's why it's called the futility boundary, right? So it's either insignificant or it could also be worse, but we don't know that because we're not testing for that. But because of that, GST experiment will always cross either the boundary, even if it's at the last analysis, right? It will always cross either the futility or the efficacy boundary. So as soon as an experiment crosses one of the line, then it is completed and the decision can be made. So in this case, for example, the experiment crossed. Sorry, I have to move my mouse. The experiment crossed the efficacy boundary at the 6th analysis, right? And it crossed the green line. So it means that unless there is other evidence in any of the other decision-making metric, then basically this experiment can be put full on. So it can be shipped to all the users. On the other hand, if this experiment had crossed the other boundary, so the gray one, then it would mean, so the futility boundary, sorry, then it would mean that this experiment is unlikely to have the expected impact, so it can be stopped for futility. In this case, the users can then decide to either iterate on this hypothesis or drop this line of experimentation. If I zoom out here again, you can see that because this experiment crossed the efficacy boundary at the 6th analysis, then it actually has an efficiency gain of nearly 37%. So this is compared to a fixed horizon experiment. So in this case, it basically means that you save roughly 2 days or 2 weeks by running this experimental group sequential experiment, which is quite significant. And this is what we see over and over again. GST, on average, will lead to faster decision making. So that's it. I hope this was useful. If you have any question about GST or anything else, just drop a line below. And I will see you soon. Bye.